Over the years, I've received quite a lot of emails from some budding and sometimes very young artists who don't believe they can get started learning digital art, let alone become a professional, without owning a large and top-of-the-line display digital tablet like a Cintiq. Sometimes these people actually believe that the thing stopping them from getting started learning digital art, let alone creating professional quality art, is a budget of thousands of dollars. I wanted to make this video as a direct rebuttal to that pattern of thinking, and today I'm going to create some kick-ass art using the Wacom INTUOS Draw Small tablet. This is the cheapest, smallest, and most affordable digital tablet that Wacom produce. You can grab it for around $100, and today I'm going to use it and show you that you don't need a massive budget to create some professional quality art. G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and let me just start off by saying I really love my fancy drawing tablets. I am fortunate enough to be able to use a Wacom Cintiq 27 QHD for my day-to-day artwork, which is a very nice device, and I also have a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. The problem with the fact that I use those devices all the time means that when a lot of sometimes very young people watch me creating digital art on this channel, there is sometimes an assumption that is built that to create good digital art, you need the expensive thing. And that is simply not true. And in fact, I didn't have a Wacom Cintiq device until I was about 23 years old. I started off with a very cheap pad tablet and used it for years. And then after that, I did upgrade eventually to a display tablet. It wasn't even a Cintiq, it was one of the Wacom display tablet devices, which is lower pressure sensitivity and not specifically for intense art use. And those devices carried me through for years and held my hand as I learnt digital art and developed my drawing skills. And although I love my fancy Wacom gear now and do recommend them to people who are specifically in a professional industry and want efficiency and comfort, there should not be a very high barrier for entry for you starting and learning and developing your skills, and the Wacom INTUOS Draw is affordable and fun and more than capable enough to produce professional results, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's open this baby up and take a look. We'll plug it in and then get started. I happen to only have a fork lying around, so I guess that's how I'm going to open this thing. Fork you! Sorry, I forked it up. Crude language puns. Look at this, all you need. This is the INTUOS Draw pad, much thinner and lighter than the one I had when I first started. So the technology has definitely come a long way. You've got your pen, your tablet, and then inside here, what do you have? You have USB. You don't even need a power cable, so there you go, nice and easy. You can use this on a laptop. Then we have some installation guides, quick start guides, and all that stuff. So everything you need to get started. I'm gonna plug this in and get creating. So to start off with, open up Photoshop and start doodling around a bit. I was going to start off by drawing a character in a little bit of a cartoony style, but of course, as can be expected when you start using a pad tablet, there are, I suppose you could say, growing pains or discomfort in getting used to the device. But to be completely honest, the mild discomfort I experienced just adapting to the pad tablet was somewhat intensified by the fact that I was using my 27 QHD as a monitor. It did sort of taunt me until I properly adapted to the pad tablet, because the way it works is you look at a screen in front of you while your hand works on the pad down below. So there is a slight disconnect between what you're looking at and what is actually doing the work, which is your hand on the pad. Now don't freak out, this is very normal, and every time I've gone back to using a pad tablet, I always allow for a little bit of time and a little bit of discomfort to get used to the experience again, but it really doesn't take that long, especially when you've had a little bit of experience. Just be aware of this and push past that early bit of discomfort in the learning process, and you'll be creating pieces effortlessly and comfortably in no time. What I decided to do was, rather than start off with a very clean line cartoony piece, I thought I'd paint instead something a little more textured and painterly. And in working in a style like this, it meant I could start off with a lot more loose strokes and really relax my hand and be much more chill about the whole process. But also that as I work towards refining and adding details to the painted style piece, my hand will have adapted and climatized to the new drawing experience, and by the time I'm adding the nitty-gritty details, it would be a comfortable experience. And this did indeed prove to be the case. So I'm glad I went this route, and to do so, I used Bob Ross as an inspiration. I've recently found new love for Bob Ross, to be honest, because while I've always been aware of what he's done and enjoyed his work, now almost every night when it's my turn to put my son to bed, we watch Bob Ross together on my phone while he starts to settle and have his bottle. So I'm sort of rediscovering and appreciating Bob Ross and introducing my son to him at the same time, which is really nice. I'm using my custom Photoshop paintbrushes to have that really naturalistic style of painting, painting, blending between areas as I go and keeping things really rough and loose. And slowly but surely, in particular as you can see with the mountains, I add areas of refinement and start to block out the geometric shapes and then add some details and levels of contrast in the areas of the image. When I'm happy with the distant background, that being the sky and the mountains, I move on to the midground and the foreground. And again, the process of this incremental style of painting is really comfortable when it comes to adapting to the device. Because essentially by starting off with really basic silhouettes and shapes and really simple forms, my hand can relax, it's okay to make mistakes, and then as my hand relaxes and my eyes and hand get used to that transition, it's only a matter of time that more refinement becomes easier to introduce, which by the time I've finished my basic blocking and can add new layers of detail to my imagery, the process is quite an organic one. As you can see throughout this piece, all I'm really doing is laying block areas of flat color with a textured brush. I did this for the mountains, I did this for the trees and the areas of the forest surrounding the lake. And then once I'm happy with the silhouettes and the rough shapes, and I add some organic edges and some nice little details around the silhouette, I move around to some different tonal variations and lighter colors of the same palette to start to brush in some of the details, some of the outer edges of the trees where the light reflects on, and then even some of the textures and highlights on the ground and the surrounding areas of water and forest. When creating digital paintings like this, it's important to keep in mind that you really don't have to go over the top with detail all throughout the piece. What I mean by that is, of course, as things go further into the horizon and into the distance, there's going to be less detail, so it's okay if it's sort of a bit misty or in the fog, or if there aren't huge amounts of details in the trees, branches, or in the grass. But what helps with creating this sense of balance is by having some objects in the foreground, as you can see I'm doing here with the bushes, that have a lot more detail than the areas in the far background, and this creates the illusion that there is more detail in the background, but that the eye doesn't actually need to see because it's already being complemented by the fact that they're seeing the detail in the foreground and in the near midground. I go through my whole piece, adding a few final touches after merging it all into one layer, just some basic color correction, some dodging and burning, sharpening the whole image and slightly softening and smudging the sky in the background. And then once I'm happy with that and I have a nicely varied, colorful environment image, it's time to go back to the first thing I tried to do, which was create a cartoon character. Now this brings me back to my initial point of the fact that when I started using this tablet, which at this stage was about 2 hours earlier in this drawing process, it felt pretty difficult, if not kind of impossible, to create a refined cartoon character. However, after a little bit of persistence and a few hours of patience and relaxing, listening to some audiobooks and getting in the zone, coming back to the task that required a little more accuracy and a little more refinement and smooth work was a lot more comfortable and avoided a lot of stress after I'd spent the time to just relax into the process of working with the device. And all of a sudden, towards the end of creating this artwork, I didn't feel a huge barrier between my abilities and my want to create some digital artwork. Frankly, I would be happy putting this piece on a poster or sending it to a client just as much as I would with anything I could create on my fancy devices. There are, as you can expect, differences in how they feel and how they are comfortable to work with, and of course the learning curve is a little bit steeper with a smaller and pad tablet device like the one I'm using in this video. But the point of this video and the point I'm trying to make is you can make professional quality work with a cheap device, and that if you want to get started, budget shouldn't have to be the thing that's stopping you. And also, FYI, this isn't the only thing that I've created using a pad tablet. In fact, a couple of years ago, I made a game over a weekend in a game jam with a few friends of mine in Melbourne. I used a laptop and an old secondhand bamboo tablet, which was the predecessor to the INTUOS series tablet. The game was called Shadow Tag. It was played by millions of people and was actually quite popular Halloween-themed flash game. And again, made over a weekend and on a laptop with a secondhand cheap Wacom tablet. So not only can you create professional quality artwork with an affordable tablet, but you can actually make money and start a business and work for clients or create content that you distribute online using affordable equipment. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is my digital artwork created with the Wacom INTUOS Draw within the space of under 3 hours. I hope you enjoy how the artwork turned out and feel like I delivered a pretty decent result. I had a lot of fun making it, and you know what? That is the point at the end of the day. If you want to develop your digital art creation skills, try and develop your traditional skills at the same time, work with a lot of pencil and paper stuff while you create digital art on whatever tablet is within your means. Because at the end of the day, if you work hard and you stick at it, you're gonna get those professional results you're after. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos. And while you're at it, check out my shop where I sell ebooks, brushes, photo references, video courses, and more. There's another video you might enjoy from my channel over there, and you can also check out my behind the scenes daily vlog channel, Daily Jazza. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.